Okay, so I do have that it's 11:30, so I will go ahead and get us started. I do have a bit of a document that I'm reading from, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize the screen. Please let me know if I'm talking too low. I'm going through a little bit of a scratchy throat, so that's why the very white voice right now. So let me know if I need to speak up for anybody. I do have Rachel Rhodes, our construction administrative assistant, joining us here. So she is also part of the construction team, and also so you can put a face with the name whenever you see her sending out any emails. So I just want to thank everybody for joining. Again, this is the construction virtual session that we're having right now from 11:30 to 12:30. Um, I know that we had a lot of informational and exciting news in our all attendees meeting that we had earlier. So hopefully I can get that same level of energy, and not everybody got their questions already answered. So I'm hoping more and more people come into this session as well. I want to make sure that I value everyone's time and continue the purpose of this QAP workshop. So I will start with touching on some questions that were submitted over to our survey. And then I will provide opportunity for some open-ended discussions on top of that. And then hopefully also these questions will kind of spur some discussion as well. House rules. Discussion is only regarding the construction review section of our threshold. So that's going to include the sections of site access, site zoning, operating utilities, public water, sanitary sewer, required amenities, community service facilities, rehab standards, which we had a lot of questions for earlier, site information and conceptual site development plan, building sustainability, accessibility standards, and architectural design and quality standards. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, our 2022 manuals will be uploaded Friday to our public website, dca.ga.gov, and a notification will be sent out once available. We do already have, though, our pre-app application forms already up and ready for people to view and download as needed. So those are already available for you, especially with our pre-app deadline coming on March 4th. So just giving that out, making sure everybody's still here. I'm not missing anybody. Okay. And we also have Jim Jafari. Jim Jafari, hopefully y'all have seen some emails as well from him. He's part of our construction management specialist staff. So he will be an assigned project manager that some of you might already have, or that you will actually have as well during the application process. So Jim, if you want to say hi.
Good morning, everybody. Fire away any questions y'all need answered. Miss Potter will take care of y'all.
So as I said earlier, I want to dive into the survey questions first, and then if there's any ones that I have not answered or any questions that y'all have for me, I'll definitely give you that opportunity so we'll be able to discuss. The very first one is talking about the rehab process. I'm not sure who posted that question, so hopefully this will provide some feedback or at least some clarity. When it comes to our pre-application, our pre-application is only pre-application submission. As far as waivers is if you have a property that has rehab on it, what we're looking is any waiver. So this would be architectural, this would be accessibility, this would be amenity. Any waivers would actually have to come in during our pre-app process. Again, all of those forms are up on our website, dca.ga.gov, so you can look through and download as needed. And what you would need to submit is any supporting documentation to go along with that waiver request. The supporting documentation that we do require, just so you know, and everybody knows, and some that we touched on in the earlier open session, is if you're asking about, or if you're stating in your waiver request, there's any type of infeasibility or feasibility issues. So of course, we know feasibility is going to be dealing with underwriting. So we will need to have a rehab scope of work that shows cost allocations for your project. And our rehab scope of work form is up on our public website. We also need a physical needs assessment report, and that's because we ask for your Fannie Mae forms during the pre-application as well. And the Fannie Mae form has to be filled out by your physical needs assessment consultant. And the only way they can fill that out is through that physical needs assessment report. To touch a little bit back on what I was discussing earlier today in our open session meeting, not everything is going to I understand, let me say that. I understand not everything is expressly input in a physical needs assessment. However, I want to make sure people are prepared in case they have more than just a ceiling heights waiver request and more than just a minimum square unit size, a minimum unit square feet type of waiver request. So if you're requesting regarding fixtures, cabinets, countertops, kitchen appliances, those are things that definitely would require backup supporting documentation from a physical needs report, Fannie Mae form, and that's how we're able to actually review and provide a determination. The rehab scope of work, again, would be put in there if you're stating for any issues with feasibility of being able to provide those sites and those items that we're asking for in our dwelling unit or on the actual project site. I'm hoping that's answering the question for rehab process. It's a pretty general question. And I know I'm sticking with pre-app because I know that's the soonest deadline. Everything else would really be in our QAP regarding our rehab standards section. So at least right now, just in case I'm missing something, does anybody have maybe some clarity that they want to provide on that question of the rehab process or questions that y'all have? Yes, I'm getting a hands up, but I'm not able to. Hold on, let me change over from Bruce. And you might have to unmute yourself, Bruce. Okay, Bruce went away. Oh, wait,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
It doesn't seem fair or feasible to ask us to submit a P&A with the waiver in the absence of the P&A manual that has not been uploaded yet.
Understand and very good feedback. So I will, and I can say actually that when it comes to our rehab guide, which is what I'm guessing you actually mean when you say the P&A manual, with our rehab guide, we haven't had any changes in that guide. So what we're doing right now is just sprucing up and providing some clarity. So the actual qualifications and requirements required is actually still going to be the same and roll right over into our 2022. You also are able to see those requirements in our 2022 QAP, and that one actually has been up since November. Does that help you a little bit, Bruce?
Well, yes and no. You may be aware that there were no changes this year, but those of us out here on the other side were not aware that there haven't been any changes. And many third-party professionals are reluctant to get out there in the field, conduct the assessments and reviews without actually knowing what's required.
Understand. And so again, that will also go back to making sure that you have that supporting documentation. So if you have a document or if you have a narrative, if you have something else that can truly support the reason why you're asking for this waiver, we can always take that also. And we will take that on top of you not having that requirement. Our pre-application is a little bit more open than our actual competitive round. And we do have the ability to work back and forth with our partners to see what can be met and what can't be met, and then ways that we can actually work through it together. So if that's the case of not having a P&A or not thinking a P&A will be needed because you don't have that availability of information yet, I would still say to go ahead and make sure that you are submitting all of your waivers that you think you might need for your property, because again, our forms are already up and available for you to use. And then as far as supporting documentation, I would definitely try to submit as much as possible that is going to back up that waiver request that you have. Whatever else that we may need, we will always reach out to you. Again, I just don't want to have, what I don't want to have is actually what happened with us in 2021. So it's almost a catch-22 situation where we're trying to provide the information up ahead of time of what you may need, but it also might, like you're saying, Bruce, be too much on the back end of too much to actually do. But what I don't want to do is say that you don't need the P&A. You have a pre-app that you've submitted for a specific request, and the only way that we can really provide a good determination on that request is by having that P&A information to support it, if that makes sense. Anybody, does that help you, Bruce, a little bit more?
Yes, and thank you. I think what I'm hearing is good news, and I appreciate
Okay,
that. Let me just ask one more follow up, and then
sure,
I'll turn it back to you. Um,
sure.
One helpful document might be a P&A that we had prepared and submitted in 2020, and so that document's not quite 2 years old yet. And so that would be something that we can offer along with the Fannie Mae information, et cetera. That might be something we could offer in lieu of a more current P&A, given the short turnaround period.
So to speak on that for you, when you're using something that is from an older year, because we do ask for it to be, I want to say it's within at least 6 months. And then we have a kind of back of the mind, okay, if it's at least within a year type of process that we will give if we see that, okay, maybe no changes. But a lot of that is also going to be on your P&A consultant and being able to actually provide some type of affidavit or letter that states no significant changes have happened to the property. Because also we want to make sure that we are getting a good outlook and a good view of the property at the time of application, so that later on in the process, there's no negative impact if something was not brought to our attention ahead of time, construction has happened and completed, and now we're being hit with something or detail or a site or service that should have been actually provided and was not. So that is our main concern. But yes, Bruce, an older P&A along with having some type of affidavit or some type of narrative stating that it is still one, realistic as far as the expectation of the property, still current as far as the expectation of the property. We could definitely look at being able to provide you some type of approval on that. Yes, sir. But again, the reason why we're making sure you reach out to us with that information is because it's not a free for all. Because a lot of times, as you know, one situation might not work for everyone.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure. And I noticed a question in the chat. Let me see here. Okay, and this is stating, will there be a cost limit in 2022? And will we need to complete a cost limit waiver depending on our project costs, similar to last year's application? For now, I am going to reiterate based on the information that we provided for the all attendees meeting earlier today. So currently, we no longer have cost limits. And hopefully everybody heard that information. If not, cost limits were taken away from the 2022 QAP. Now we are putting a heavy emphasis on cost reasonableness. So the QAP allows DCA to address costs that are unreasonably high. If any costs are unreasonable, please make sure to provide documentation or applicant comment supporting and explaining the cost. A DCA may make downward adjustments to any unreasonable cost. So for right now, we actually no longer have a cost limit section, and your cost as far as the actual construction, which is the part that only I can speak on. As far as the development costs as a whole, that would be more of our underwriting services. But when it comes to construction costs, unless flagged by either our team or underwriting, there is no cost limits waiver for 2022. Cost reasonableness, if there's for any reason saying that the cost is higher than it should be, and that would be a discussion that we would have to have with underwriting. And that's where Mitch is stating that we probably will request for, or we could request for, some additional information in order to support that high cost. Hopefully I answered that question properly for you. We're still trying to get some information on that one. So as it becomes available, I definitely will make sure I will go into more cost information regarding construction for you also. And then I do want to just make a quick introduction for Kevin Mitchell. He is another project manager who is with DCA. Kevin, say hi, sir.
Hello, I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for joining us today.
Perfect. Okay. Any other chat questions? I will definitely make sure to check back. I do want to go on to one more rehab work scope question. This was touched on a little bit also during our all attendees meeting. So just in case y'all didn't weren't able to hear it, and then also by Bruce's question earlier too, and that is the pre-application is due at a very early stage of pre-development, and considering the volatility of the market, the rehab work scope, or scope of work as we call it at construction, will not provide an accurate estimate of the cost for the rehab. Additionally, GCs and subcontractors will be reluctant to project out for pricing multiple items. Excuse me, pricing multiple times. So one thing to understand is because pre-application is based, pre-application for construction is when you're submitting waivers. So in your waiver request, we do have to see where you are getting that infeasibility or not feasible cost if you're requesting off of a certain item. So whether it's roofing being a 30-year warranty, shingles, flooring, having to do acoustical installation in your ceiling, having to do acoustical installation in the walls. I'm trying to think of some things that might come in as a waiver stating infeasibility or not feasible for the project. The only way that we are able to see that is from the rehab scope of work. So not stating that these costs should actually be cemented. We just need to know where you're getting the high cost from, and that's making the project infeasible. So hopefully that answered that question. Again, if anybody needs any further clarification, let me know. And then somebody posted in the chat, what documentation do you require along with the waiver for feasibility of adding an additional bathroom to a dwelling unit? That would also go with a narrative of the cost of the narrative of the cost to add that actual bathroom. And now, if this is a rehab property, also know that we are understandable that it's going to be harder with an existing building because, of course, you have existing foundation and existing walls. So all we're looking for is some information from your architect, some information from a GC. If you don't already have that GC on your project team, reach out to one stating the reason why this is infeasible or will not make this project feasible is because. And of course, for a rehab, that's definitely understandable because instead of being constructing from new, you're actually breaking down or having to demo something in order to make that requirement. So hopefully that answers that question. Let me know if I need to go further into that one as well. Okay, I see some other hands up, and I'm trying to go back and forth between chat and participants so I can see whose hands is up. And I am so sorry, Thompson, was I able to answer your question from earlier or do you have some more? I don't want to avoid your hand at all. And this is Thompson Curry. Okay. Okay, I don't see the hand up anymore. So let me go back and check the chat. Okay. All right. So I think we're good on the chat here. Again, any questions, if I'm missing your hands being raised, please make sure you put those in the chat. I will definitely read from those and get those answered for you. Another question that came up regarding our rehab scope of work, just go down here and make sure. And this is the building sustainability. So the building sustainability, the question is, are we meeting minimum code or green building requirements for DCA projects? So the answer to that is you are going to be meeting the minimum code for the state of Georgia. Now, as far as green building requirements, we have made sure to insert into our actual 2022 QAP that the final construction documents must clearly indicate all components of the building envelope and all materials and equipment that meet these requirements are actually met. In addition to the building sustainable certification verification below, they also have to make sure that they have documentation that they're meeting all of our requirements too. So in order to answer that question, I haven't gotten a lot of feedback, but I do understand that I believe the question is stating in some instances, the DCA or the Georgia minimum code might be either higher than the green building requirements from your actual sustainable building certification consultant. If that's the case, we are making sure to, hopefully you understand, we want you to actually meet the DCA and Georgia requirements. And for a lot of the sustainable building certification consultants that we've talked to, that still would give you the points needed in order to meet your certification requirement through DCA, and through their actual program as well. So let me know if I've touched on that question correctly or if more clarification is needed as well for that question. Okay. All right, so I don't have any other questions regarding the survey that was submitted. So I'm going to open up the floor. Again, please use the chat or you can just unmute yourselves. I will try to go along with the dialogue as much as possible. But any other questions or concerns that people have or that would like to have an open discussion about some things in our QAP or some things of our pre-application process, which is getting ready to come to a deadline soon. We have plenty of time. So no questions regarding rehab standards, no additional questions regarding building sustainability. Any improvements that you think we should meet in the rehab standards, building sustainability, or any other sections of our QAP that have not bothered, but maybe you have seen, oh, this is a new thing that we can do here. Again, we definitely want to make sure that we have open discussion. And by putting in your feedback to us, it does help to where you know that you are being heard, and we want to make sure that you see that as well. Any questions, concerns at all? Okay, so I'm getting our QAP is great, and we should keep it just as is. No changes needed going forward. I do know that a lot of clarity we provided in the 2021, so hopefully that has helped a lot of people when it comes to doing either your pre-application or your application. We definitely didn't mean to stir up any type of hornet's nest with the P&A. Again, that's just making sure for those who are providing waivers at pre-application, that we're getting all the information that we may or may not need ahead of time, and it's not being, as a sheet put over your head because we're asking for it last minute. Again, our pre-application process, we are able to have actual dialogue through email communication. So it is more open than once we go into our application competitive round. So we are able to work with you regarding materials and additional documents if needed based on the waivers that you are requiring. A lot of the waivers, though, definitely correct, may not need the documents that we're asking. What we don't want to do, though, is find a waiver within however many that you're requesting, and we do need that information, and it takes a while in order to get, because we only have a small amount of turnaround time in order to review, provide determination, and then get it back to you, especially so that you have enough time in order to get your application together and ready to submit. And all of those deadlines, again, just to go from what Jack was stating and Mitch Chu, is in our QAP, and you can find that in our Exhibit A table. Any other questions, burning issues regarding our QAP or our pre-applications? Yes, I see a hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sherry, so I just want to check for the PCNAs, is the requirement fully contained within the QAP, or is there going to be additional information within one of the manuals on Friday?
So the requirement for our P&A and what we're looking for is mostly in our QAP. As far as the rehab guide, which is where the information for P&A is input for you. So that's going to be part of our architectural manual. And again, that is coming on Friday. That's really just a breakout of what we're looking for or what we're looking for the consultant to include in their report. Again, a lot of that is going to, for those who weren't aware before, in order to touch on Bruce's comment, a lot of that is not going to be too much different from our 2021. So please understand that you can reference an older manual as far as at least providing a guideline, but we will have a definite answer for you on Friday for everything that's needed in our P&A. Also, a lot of the consultants used are very familiar with DCA's process and DCA's requirements when it comes to the P&A, and that's our physical needs assessment reports. So they will also be able to give you that guidance needed to make sure that you're getting a proper report. If, again, this is if you are looking at doing waivers. So that would only or mostly be with rehab properties. Okay, it looks like we have some others in the chat. Okay, answered that one. Do you anticipate any major changes in the architectural manuals for 2022? No, I do not anticipate any major changes in the architectural manual. The one difference that you will definitely see, or that you might have noticed, is in our 2021 building sustainability, we not only gave we gave more clarity regarding the type of inspection and testing that we wanted for our building sustainability and compliance section regarding measured duct and air infiltration. So that section has been requested to be pulled out and put into our architectural manual, since our architectural manual provides more information and instruction when it comes to things post-award. So because of that, you will notice that change in our architectural manual. And we are looking into providing more ability for the minimum unit square footage. So those are the only two major changes in the architectural manual for 2022 that I see. So everything else is really going to be clarity and making sure that we are meeting our 2022 QAP language. And according to our Stephen Barrett, he has a draft 2022 architectural manual that's posted for people to review currently. And then we will have the official document on Friday. So hopefully that answers that question. Let me know if I can go into any more clarity for you. All right, so we still have plenty of time. I knew it. I answered most of everybody's questions during the all attendees meeting earlier. Any other questions I can go back, any other concerns I can go back through? Is somebody talking? Any other questions, concerns, QAP manual, architectural manual, rehab guide? And right now, oh, sorry. Thank you, Stephen. We have our 2022 pre-app forms. So our 2022 pre-app forms are available on our DCA website. Clarification to Stephen's earlier comment, we do not have the architectural manual up on our website yet. That will be coming Friday. So official, not draft. The official document will be coming on Friday. Thank you, Stephen. Questions, concerns? Good. I definitely want to be helpful. And I do want to make sure I allay any concerns regarding the conversation over P&A and rehab work scope. Again, our pre-app process when it comes to waivers, and that's again, any waiver. So if you're looking to do an accessibility waiver, if you are looking to do an architectural waiver, amenities waiver, those are all available on our dca.ga.gov, our public website. And that process of actually, once you do your submission and being able to work with you for the supporting documents that we need, is definitely more open than it comes to our competitive round. So we are able to email you, we are able to question, and we are able to ask for additional documents. So again, only if you are looking at submitting waivers are you looking at needing that P&A, that rehab scope of work, and those Fannie Mae forms. To Bruce's point, we are willing to work with you if you have an older P&A. We just will probably ask for some additional certification from your P&A consultant stating that no significant changes have been made to the property since the original one or the one that you are actually submitting. Rehab scope of work, again, that's if you're stating that the waiver you're requesting is issues with feasibility or not being feasible or infeasible. Those are normally like the languages that I see when it comes to those documents. So in order to actually verify and confirm that, we would need that rehab scope of work, because that also is the only way that we can ascertain the project is going to be set up and sustainable within its actual 15-year or 20-year period. As hopefully you all know and understand, that's what we look for, because that's the compliancy period for most of our projects, except for the ones that have that addition of GFA funding. So 15-year, 20, and 30 years are the compliancy period that we're looking for DCA funded projects. And that's all DCA funded projects as well. So that's another reason why those additional documents to support the reason for that waiver request is needed. And again, we understand when it comes to rehab properties, some of that is not always going to be included in the P&A, but the P&A will still give a very good outlook on the property and help to provide an easier and quicker turnaround when it comes to the review of your waiver request as well. And again, all of those documents for your pre-app application, if needed. Again, everybody might not need to do a waiver. So hopefully you are reading through our QAP, our 2022 QAP regarding our architectural standards, rehab, and building sustainability, especially accessibility, and making sure that that's not needed. Okay, and this question, can you confirm the 5% of hard costs that must be maybe so that's minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, can be met with architects, surveyors, attorneys, or other soft costs? So that's more of a question from our underwriting, and then Mitch, which is going to be our lead when it comes to the minority women business and enterprise engagement. So I would not be able to provide a sufficient answer at this time, but I will make sure to bring that question up when we come back and re-adjourn for our all attendees meeting at the end of this session. Any other questions, concerns? Have plenty of time. Anything else that I can relay to people, or at least make more clear when it comes to either submitting your pre-app application submission, again, that has a March 4th deadline, or the upcoming 9% competitive round, as much as possible. I will try to answer as well. So again, I want to make sure I value everybody's time. Any other application submission or pre-application questions that you have?
Hey, Jerry, this is Devin. Just a quick question, and I don't know if this is the right forum, but for pre-application submissions, in the first session, you guys mentioned we're doing it through Emphasis, and then we upload the work documents. When will Emphasis be ready to kind of start that process? Last year when we did them, you could kind of start filling it out and save it, but not submit it. Mm-hmm. But if I'm on Emphasis now, there's no selection for 2022 pre-apps. Do y'all have any idea when that's going to be ready?
Correct. So I want to say from the all attendees meeting that we had earlier, they're looking for this week, Friday, but please make sure you verify that by attending the actual emphasis session that is going on right now, because I don't want to give you the wrong information. In case anybody doesn't, I will also make sure just to bring that up so we can get a repeat on that actual deadline of when that would be happening. But I want to say I want to say emphasis, especially emphasis for pre-app, is going to be up and running or at least available by this Friday.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions, concerns, or questions that I have not touched on? And then just to also, as far as our construction department, to reconfirm, we will have our manuals, our pre-app forms are already up, but we will have our manuals up and going by Friday as well of this week. So that includes our architectural manual, rehab guide, amenities guide, accessibility manual, which is its own separate section, and I think submission requirements. I think that's it. Any other questions I can go through, or does anybody else have any concerns I can address in our session today? I do not expect any major changes to our accessibility manual. With our accessibility manual, the only changes that we are doing are what's already in our 2022 QAP, so that to make sure that that language is actually clear and up to date as far as any type of code requirements, but no changes whatsoever from our 2021. Again, other than making sure we're matching year for our 2022 QAP and making sure code requirements are up to date, which because we generalize that, just making sure you're using the current state codes, we'll keep that language the same. This is just easier whenever we make changes to our guides. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, let me see, make sure I just didn't miss anything else in the chat. Okay. We still have plenty of time. Anybody else new to the DCA? Questions regarding the pre-app application? Questions regarding waivers? Any additional clarity needed on our rehab standards? And any additional clarity needed on building sustainability or architectural design for this year? Just to reiterate from earlier, cost limits are not part of the 2022. So now it's just cost reasonableness, and that is decided on our underwriting side. And then if it impacts construction in any way, we'll make sure to go into discussion with underwriting team, and then of course contact you if any additional documentation is needed in order to support the high cost that's being recorded or notated in the application, but no cost limits for 2022. For 2021 awards, so when do you think you'll be posting submission checklist documents required at 60 days? So you're talking about our construction services transmittal. Do go ahead and give apologies. Our 2022 manuals, forms, and guides have taken precedent, but now that our carryover allocations for 2021 awards have been sent out, we will definitely make sure that we get our 2021 forms up on our construction services area of the DCA public website. So that's DCA, again, that's DCA dca.ga.gov. If you go into LIHTC and then you go into construction services, that's where all funding rounds can actually be found. 2021 is the only one that's missing right now, and we will get that out to you as soon as possible. We're hoping to have that completed for you by the end of next week, if not this week also. But again, it's just because our 2022 end up taking priority. So that's going to be our construction services transmittal that's being talked about in the chat right now. And with that transmittal, it basically lets you know what each type of required document for construction is needed for your 60-day submission, commencement submission, final inspection submission, and 8609 submission. Again, this is information for just our pure 9% and 4%. Our projects that have GFA, so that's Georgia Housing Finance Authority dollars on top of that, like home, NHTF, those documents will also be part of the transmittal, but it would have a different process as far as the amount of submissions or type of submission that you would send to us. But yes, that is coming soon. Again, 2022 took priority, so we do apologize, but we will get that to you by Friday of this week or at the very latest next week. Also, just so you know, a lot of confusion, I couldn't think of the word, has been around carryover allocation letter compared to DCA Exhibit A. Exhibit A in our DCA QAP is basically a breakdown of all of the deadlines for all DCA funded projects. So y'all know, as far as the construction documents, our construction services team goes by the QAP. So if your carryover allocation for 2021 is stating a March 1st deadline, we completely understand the worry. Just know that we are going by the QAP deadline, which states March 30th of 2022, and you will not be penalized if you have not submitted that 60-day construction services submission by that March 30th, or I'm sorry, by that March 1st deadline, because again, we don't typically expect it until the end of March on our side. So hopefully you understand you will not be penalized for our delay, and that we actually more associate with the QAP deadline listed in the Exhibit A. And Rachel Rhodes, who I introduced everybody to earlier for any people new coming in, so you can put a face to the name. She is right there. So she is the person who is our gatekeeper when it comes to our construction submissions. And we also have an electronic process that we're using now. So please reach out to me if you want to know that electronic process. Rachel Rhodes as well. And we will make sure to get that information to you as well. And I think I interrupted somebody, sorry. Was somebody ready to ask a question? Any questions? Okay, all right. Well, it looks like I answered that question. We do have our chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask as well, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. We also have our all attendees session for any questions that do not pertain to construction, or I don't have exact guidance yet, and I will make sure to bring that question up in that attendance session as well. Any question? Next time I'm going to say attend the construction virtual session before I answer any questions, because I know a lot of these happen during the all attendance meeting. So if I do need to reiterate any of those responses, let me know that as well. Okay, again, we still have plenty of time. We have 15 more minutes left. Any other questions? Again, we want to make sure we are using this time to assist you, especially if you need a DCA to meet that pre-app application deadline, especially if you're looking at submitting any type of waivers. And then also we have our application deadline coming up soon for our 9% round. Any questions? And I'm just gonna make note of some that I want to make sure to bring to attention in our all attendance question. Okay, I'm gonna check again. All right, still at our 15-minute mark. So any questions? Again, I'm more than happy to assist. This would be any questions for our pre-app. This would be any questions for our app deadline. Again, those are the coming up. We have all of our pre-app forms now available for 2022 on our public website. It's dca.ga.gov. If anybody has any questions. Again, my name is Sherry Potter, Assistant Office Director, and I'm also carrying on the role of Construction Manager right now. And I have some of my team members here as well with us, such as Jim Jafari and Rachel Rhodes. So any construction questions regarding a possible waiver for pre-app application deadline, or any questions on the 2022 QAP for the construction section. Again, that would be our site access, site zoning, public water, operating utilities, and mainly, which we typically get more input or information or feedback about, required amenities, rehab standards, building sustainability, accessibility, architectural design. Any questions or concerns? I know we made a lot of changes to the 2021 QAP and the appendix, well, yeah, accompanying manuals that cleared up a lot of questions for a lot of people, and also removed some waivers that previously would request before. So any questions on the 2022 QAP, which not that many changes whatsoever compared to 2021. And again, we're looking at pretty much the same when it comes to our 2022 manuals. And that would be the accessibility manual, that would be the rehab guide, that would be the amenities guide, submission requirements manual, architectural standards. Any questions, concerns, any feedback with the previous group, which some of y'all might have been a part of as well? Does that mean that our QAP is perfect and we never need to change it again? Because I'm fine with that. Please know this feedback does help us. I understand if it's not always thought that way. We do move as fast as we can, which is not always as fast as others would definitely like. So I'm definitely there. I understand that completely, but we do need that feedback as well. So let me know if you have any feedback too. If it is feedback, just let me know, hey, this is feedback, especially if it's not something you want to openly discuss, which is completely okay. But we do take and definitely like feedback. So any feedback would definitely help also, especially so we can make sure that we're valuing your time during this session. I'm okay with hard truths. Anybody? Any other questions, concerns? We're at about 10 minutes till we go back to our all attendee session. And I want to make sure I either can provide some feedback or at least answer with some responses or comments if anybody else needs some guidance when it comes to our pre-application or our application. Again, feedback, I also am more than happy to take so that we can have a better workshop for our next year. Also a better workshop going forward if we ever decide to do on any other situations or subjects within our QAP. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to participants so I can make sure I didn't miss any hands being up. Okay, and then let me just make sure I'm not missing any additional chats. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're at the 10-minute mark. Anybody else have any questions or concerns? I'm here and I'm constantly checking the chat and I'm constantly checking participants for hands up. If there's anything additional y'all need a response or a comment on. Okay, I'm just going to check my chat. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Currently, I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat, but please feel free to unmute yourself, ask me any questions, anything that you need clear or made clarity of from our QAP or the pre-app forms that for construction that we already have ready and uploaded on our public website. So for next year, would it be possible to have draft manuals prior to the workshop? I will definitely provide that for feedback and see if that's something that we can do. I definitely see how it can be helpful. So I will make sure that we address that for you as well. Thank you. Any other feedback, comments, responses? Okay, and I'm just checking to make sure I'm not missing anybody's hand up. Okay, and it's just giving me a 5-minute warning. So just to let everybody know, you have 5 minutes so that I would be able to provide any additional clarity, responses, or again, if you would like to provide any feedback, like having draft manuals available prior to workshop, I will definitely make sure I write all of this down so we can take into consideration. Okay, I'm just going back through, make sure I haven't missed anything. Well, I'm not getting any additional responses. So I will at least give some closing remarks. Thank y'all, everybody, for joining the Construction Services virtual session. I hope everything was clear, either in the all attendees meeting that we had earlier or some of the surveys questions that I went through in our actual session today. If any questions or concerns, hopefully you can reach out. If not, this is my plea to let you know. You can definitely reach out to me. My name is Sherry Potter. I'm Assistant Office Director with Office Housing Finance. My email address was shown earlier, but I will give it again. It is Sherry, SHERRIE .Potter, POTTER @dca.ga.gov. Please note any emails that are submitted, especially if dealing with our 9% competitive round, will also be filtered because we do go into a quiet session so we can make it equal and above board for all that are participating for our 9% round. But I will definitely get to your questions and answer as much as I am able to. I will bring up any questions that I was not able to answer in our all attendees session if it's not already brought up by other staff members who are also doing their own virtual session as well. So I, at least for right now, have 2 additional questions that I would bring up in the all attendees session of the emphasis and about the 5% construction hard cost let me make sure I'm saying this right, 5% of hard costs that must be minority business, women business enterprise can be met with architects, surveys, attorneys, or other soft costs. So unless somebody else brings that question up or provides that response for you, I will make sure to bring it up in our next all attendees session that we are getting ready to transfer over to. Again, I just want to thank you all for attending. Also thank my staff for attending as well. We have Jim Jafari. If you haven't already received emails from him, this is him. If you have, here's the face to go along with the email address and the name. And then we have Rachel Rhodes. Again, she is our construction administrative assistant. So she also handles all of our construction submissions that come in. And you, again, have a face to go with the name. So I know it's a little bit different in this post-pandemic or in pandemic environment that we have right now. So we definitely are glad that you are joining us. We're definitely glad that you are here, and we are here for any questions for you. I'm going to check the chat. Got it. Will the 2021 construction services folders be available to be submitted electronically, or will we still be mailing folders? I did like the test submission better. The test submission better. Are the electronic submission process better?
That's
I'm
correct.
gonna.
Yeah, where I did
Okay.
I did the test electronic submission for y'all. I did all
Yes.
that.
Yes, we will definitely keep our electronic process going for you. Please note that Emphasis is going to is becoming our newest platform. So eventually it will go over into the Emphasis process. Again, that will definitely be detailed to you once it does happen. So for now, Rachel Rhodes is our main gatekeeper when it comes to your construction submissions. And that is, yes, it is an electronic process. So when you are actually submitting your submission to us, make sure that you are reaching out to us first so we can give you those directions, make sure there's no issues, and we're able to upload it and be able to review it properly for you and as quick as possible as well. So it will continue on that electronic. We're trying to be completely paperless as much as possible. And remember, it's paperless though, not no paper. So as much as possible, we will definitely try to be paperless for you. We do understand in some instances, especially with IT security, we might not be able to get the electronic submissions like we need. And that is the only reason why we would tell you to go through a hard copy or a mail submission. But we typically can work through and utilize all cloud services in order to get the documents that we need, as long as it's set up in the process that we need. So hopefully that answered the question. Yes, it will continue to be electronic for the 2021 as well. So just reach out to us if you haven't already, and we will make sure to provide that information for you. If you're already somebody that we're working with in the process, pretty much know the pathway and the process that we're looking for when you send us your electronic submission. And then just to touch on one last time, and I know everybody probably has to go over if you haven't already, when it comes to the 2021 awarded projects, we go by the Qap deadline of March 30th. So please understand that you will not be penalized if you are not meeting the March 1st deadline for construction service documents. You will not be penalized if you are not meeting that March 1st deadline that's given in the carryover allocation. We are stating on our transmittal, and we're expecting, just like it says in our QAP, at least by March 30th. Now, if it goes over that, definitely reach out to us so we can provide an approval of the extension if needed. Okay, well, that has taken me a little bit past my time, so I do apologize, especially if I've broken in on y'all's breaks. But thank you again so much for joining this construction services session. You have our information if you need. I'm going to tell my team goodbye, and we will see y'all over at the all attendees meeting. Bye, everyone.